I sang in a bus. Nobody in the bus cares who the hell you are. And that uncertainty is at that moment scary, but also a moment for you to embrace something else. There are 4 children, young guys, sitting in front, who sat for 40 minutes like this. They took their hands off their ears once the percussion began.
To be in the arts, you require to let go of the notion of sanity.
Okay, great.
The way we know it.
My calendar is probably the craziest calendar. If I look at 5 days, 5 things I'm doing. Okay, I have to wear this hat on this day, this hat on this day, this hat on that day, and this.
And sometimes literally.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. Sometimes literally.
I've always hoped that G5A would be more a lab and a space where ideas and works in progress are celebrated rather than just finished productions. You know, once you decide why you're here, I think the journey is tough. I won't say it isn't, but I think there's clarity that you know, you do this and you don't do that.
Some people come and say, you know, can I just have a selfie? I mean, some people make it a point to say one thing to me. I'm a fan, and they'll pause and say, of your music. What is today superficially said to be politics, which is, I think, not politics. It's just people winning seats and winning
Power, I guess.
Yeah. There's, you know, this sort of mayhem where the audience suddenly doesn't know if we can even engage with that space anymore, because of which then the art form anymore. I'm really curious to know if you've ever been at the receiving end of something like this.
Of course I have, more than once and in more than one city. There is a pride today in behaving in that manner.
Hi and welcome to Inspire by Fever. I'm Rotox, and today I'm sitting with 2 people who truly inspire us. If we're remotely associated with the arts, then you know how important artists and of course spaces are for artists. I'm sitting at the G5A, which is in Mumbai, which completes its 10th anniversary, which I think is amazing. So I want to start with you, Anuradha, as founder and you know, someone who curates the space. I'm sure this is a landmark for you, so congratulations.
Thank you, and thanks for having us. It is a landmark in more ways than one, actually. Of course, at a personal and professional level, but I think for the arts itself, because you know, to have a space that encourages contemporary art, which is also unfettered, I think is a privilege. And the fact that we've survived and made it for
10 years.
10 years is don't you think?
Bravo, bravo.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm very intrigued by your choice of artist. Okay, because every time you see T.M Krishna, you know, there's a lot that comes along with it. It also means that you agree with T.M Krishna, you support T.M Krishna, you're with T.M Krishna. So I just want to say that, you know, wherever you walk, you know, there's so many people who walk along with you. And I think that that also is a testament to how people perceive art itself, TM. And I think that that's really amazing. So first of all, welcome to Fever.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
And I'm going to throw it back to Anu. What did you think was the reason why you'd have TM as the anniversary, I would say, name or curator to come in and, you know?
Try.
So, but no, I think it's an important question, because I think TM, don't listen to me for this, but TM really is a unique artist. I think there are very few artists today who not only are really good at their craft, but have also decided to commit their voice to issues that are important to all of us as a society. So I think, and that's actually, I feel that it's a good segue into what we're doing with this weekend, which is really explore voice and responsibility for art, for artists. Because oftentimes I feel art is looked at as an indulgence or an elite sort of engagement, and we can't be further from the truth, because I think art, simply put, is really just a way of looking at the world. And if we, through our work, can actually impact people at a level that is deeper than just the surface, I think we're able to bring about more consistent and, should I say, change that isn't for the moment. It's sustainable change.
Well, that's amazing. And voice and responsibility is such a great, I would say, what is it? It's theme, I would say, right,
Yeah.
for this weekend for sure.
But it's also, the title, because I think I want people to remember that.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
it's yeah, we just felt that it would be, something that I think all of us have felt for a while, that it's now really the art space
Yeah.
that can impact and bring about sustainable change.
Thank you so much for that. TM, your work constantly argues that caste is not just social hierarchy, it also has a spatial arrangement to it, which I find very interesting because we're also talking about a space that's celebrating 10 years. So I wanted to ask you, how do you see this entire sort of journey being shaped by space? Because the way I look at it, space has been used repeatedly to keep people out. Who gets on that stage, who stays behind the curtain, who doesn't get to say a word, who says a word, and how have you obviously looked at spaces, versus creating your own art?
So, yeah, first of all, it's a pleasure to be back at G5A. So, I can look at this in two ways. One, as a musician myself, two, in terms of the other work that I have been involved in. You could call it activist work, curatorial work, or writing. So, as a singer, as a musician, it's something that I kind of plunged into. For example, years ago, when I asked the question of why is classical music only performed in certain spaces, and which automatically decides who comes, who doesn't go. It's by default. And I'm not even saying that the people involved are purposely doing it, but they are part of a mechanism that indulges only few people, and that excludes actually a large section of people. So for me, that was a very interesting challenge to pose to myself. So what happens to me as an individual and as an artist if I go to a space that's unrelated to my existence? It's the most scary experience you can have, actually. And that's why you don't go.
Yeah.
I sang in a bus, in a public transport bus. And most people think it's an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to do. It's scary as hell. Because first, nobody in the bus cares who the hell you are. Okay? They probably have never heard your art form. Right? Now you're on a bus, loaded with people, and you're going to start belting it out. You're like, what's going to happen? And that uncertainty is at that moment scary, but also a moment for you to embrace something else, right? To learn something and to feel something. And I remember that bus journey. I was not supposed to sing. It was actually an entire curated bus trip where we had artists climbing into a bus stop, and then they would get off another bus stop. Somebody else takes like a antakshari kind
How
of a thing,
amazing.
and all different forms of music.
How lovely.
And so by the end of it, they go to the bus depot.
Correct.
So I decided to get onto that bus to just see how it was going.
Yeah.
Because we had curated it. I was curious. And there were these young singers who said, no, you have to sing. How can you not sing? So towards the end of that trip, I started singing. And I still remember, and as we were getting closer to the bus depot, there was a man outside. I mean, everybody could hear us. Like on the road, people are wondering music coming out of a bus. There was a man outside who started dancing and joining the song as we entered the depot. That was such a moment. And that's when you say, making yourself vulnerable as an artist. Something happens. I have not seen that man after that day. He doesn't know who I am, but that doesn't matter, right? So, or singing on the road or singing on the beach. When I keep giving this example. I was on the beach performing. Anybody on the beach can listen to you, right? That's the whole point. There are 4 children, young guys, sitting in front, who sat for 40 minutes like this. I'm not kidding. Like this, literally. They took their hands off their ears once the percussion began. Till then, they were like, this guy's. So the notion that what you sing can be noise to somebody. Let's just perceive that notion, It's very interesting. The classical world or the elite world will never imagine that any sound they produce or any word they utter can be violent or noise for somebody else. That's what I learned from that moment. That the reason that boy closed his ears is because in his oral sensibility, it was noisy. So what does that tell you? So I think I have learned a lot and I continue to when I step. Then you have the other thing, right? So we have done 2 festivals together, Shurat, right here. And one of the things that we did is said this space must belong to all artists. So we've had conversations here with artists from various social backgrounds, from various locations in society, various soundscapes, various visualscapes, all performing to different audiences, right? So when you do that, the space changes, the experience changes, and the word inclusive makes me always a little uncomfortable. I prefer the word non-exclusive, you
Mm.
know, because I say the moment something is not exclusive, the word inclusivity is irrelevant.
Mm.
Absolutely.
So I think that's what you think of, whether it is G5A or whether it is any space that you curate. And how does one make that welcoming? That's the word I would say for anybody.
100%.
And I think as a writer, I have been writing about this for a long, long time in different spheres. So they mean similar things, but they also mean different things depending on what role you play. So the most intimate is me, the singer, right?
Absolutely.
Um, I would say the curator is somewhere in between, and and the activist is somewhere there. The writer is probably taking a slightly more distant view and trying
Mm.
to look at it at a philosophical level and saying what is going on.
So I want to take this back to you, Anu, and ask you, how do you decide to give your space to an artist? What's important?
So, firstly, I don't really consider it my space. It is something, and as an architect, I've always felt that when you finish work on a project, it really ceases to be your space.
Sure.
So I don't identify with the space either as somebody who helped build it or as somebody who's part of this whole ecosystem. So that's one thing, that I really am detached from the space. It's only when somebody abuses it that I guess I just come from a certain protective space, because this is a vulnerable, fragile space. And I just feel if someone abuses it for the wrong reasons, then you're not welcome. But otherwise, I'm really not the gatekeeper or the person who will say yes or no, except for very, very clear I guess, political, ideological views. So, for example, let me put it this way: the people we would welcome.
Well
Yes.
done. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, we want another 10 years. So,
I'm going to come back to that. That's my next question.
but I think the people we would welcome really is the community of artists who come with integrity, who come with courage, and a certain rigor in really wanting to explore the idea of art apart from just their performance and their life and their voice. So
How
it's
amazing.
really, because and now actually having completed 10 years, I feel a certain, even more distance, I would say, from G5A specifically. It's really about now looking at, what can be done as an ecosystem. So I think it's really important, the kind of work that we bring here. Because if you see, we don't lay out the blueprint for the public, but I think over the years, people are getting a sense of a certain thread or a few threads, and that run sort of through the program. So I think what is interesting is also to see the kinds of people who are writing into us. That I believe has also changed, so they know that it's not going to be, we're not going to get some artists who would want better seating, better, equipment and all of that. We'll get artists who really, really desperately need space. And I'm really happy, and so is my team. So, sorry, to come back to the point that I'm really not the gatekeeper anymore. I don't think I ever was. I always was much more exclusive. What did you say? Non-exclusive. Yeah. So the point is that I think today at G5A, what we look for is really that. I think the fundamental thing is integrity of purpose. So it's not just about you and your voice, but it's really about what you are thinking about the larger ecosystem that we exist in.
Space disallowing or allowing people in is one part of this conversation. But if you live in Mumbai, then for us, space is also so political now that as audiences, we're thinking twice going into a space, because depending on who the artist is. And I think over the last couple of years, we've seen instances where spaces have wanted to be with artists and have wanted to give them that stage or that mic and that audience. And then there's, this sort of mayhem where the audience suddenly doesn't know if we can even engage with that space anymore, because of which then the art form anymore. So I'm sure you've heard of a couple of examples. I'm really curious to know if you've ever been at the receiving end of something like this.
How many should I count now? Well, of course I have. More than once, and in more than one city, and across the globe.
Yeah.
So,
What does an artist do?
well, the first time it's a little shocking, and it's very disturbing the first time. But then, actually, what do you do? I mean, you can't do much. It's part of the way the world is changing to a large extent, and I think the kind of parochialism that has been normalized, and coming with parochialism is the violence, and I'll call all this violent.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the word I'll use, and
Yes.
because it's violent, because it's a form of intimidation, actually, and it's not the intimidation of just me, right? Because
Mm.
I can deal with it, I can move on, but anybody who hears the story, T.M Krishna's concert was cancelled in X place because, say, of his social or political positions. Now, any other artist who may have, shall we say, similar ideas will either shut up and stop talking about them, or run away from this art form, or any other art form could be, right? So that's the scarier part, is that it intimidates others, and others are like, I just want to go sing or dance or make
Yeah.
movies or theater or whatever. I don't want to get in here, but that's the worst thing that can happen to art, because art is about all that, right?
Yes.
So yes, of course, there are spaces that are denied, concerts that are cancelled. All this, it happens even now. I mean, it's not that it's happened recently too. So yeah, I think it's harder for the organizers sometimes,
Yes.
because they put a lot of effort in it, and then it's all gone poof.
Yeah.
They don't know what to do. But I think it's a reality of today. And maybe it has happened in the past too. Maybe it's not new, and maybe it's unfair for me to just call out the last decade or so. But I think that what is new is that there is a pride today in behaving in that manner. It's like something has been won or
Humne
something.
karwa diya.
Exactly. That's probably the right phrase, actually,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happened here. Nothing. I mean,
I mean, earlier men used to be
seriously.
very excited about winning wars.
Exactly.
Now
This
they're-
is so.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think a lot of artists. I know a lot of young artists from across India, various art forms, who often reach out to me out of fear. They write to me, they call me and say, "Can I have a chat?" And sometimes even I am lost to give them advice, because I know they're younger and they really want to go out there and make art. And they're like, "What do I do?" I mean, I'm like, "Just be smart." I mean, honestly, that's my practical answer. I said, "Don't think you can do what I do, or take it." By the way, it's not fun being at the receiving end of all this, because it does take a toll on you, on your mental health, on your emotional state. It's not fun. I mean, it's not at all fun. And the callousness with which people speak about these things is really disturbing. It's really disturbing. And the other thing, remember, art is in many cases also a collaborative art form, right? It's not just me. Even if it's theater, if it's cinema, if it's music, there are other people. Now, they're all collateral damage too. That's the part that's even
Yes,
harder.
absolutely.
People are told not to associate, say, with me, hypothetically. Or if you associate with that person, I don't think we will be interested in having you. Now, that individual doesn't know what to do. So, all this is not a great place for art.
It's crazy how, for centuries, what is an innocent act of having an art space or a cultural space, has always been related to being an act of revolution. And I just find that so fascinating, because on the surface, you could just be singing a song, but it's never just a song. It's also a space for congregation. It's for movement of thought. It's for turning around and, politicizing as you will. And I think that at every point that the politics of it suits, the politics of what there is in the majority, that's when it's so disturbing, because the same art forms, whether it's movies, whether it's music, or whether it's, plays, आप करे तो बहुत बढ़िया है, लेकिन जब कोई और करे, and I find that so schizoid in a way, because it's the same act, it's just viewed differently. What does it take for a space to stay, I would say neutral, because that's what we are all seeking, right? A sense of neutrality, saying that I want to be fair to every artist who can come here and perform. But when it becomes so revolutionary to platform an artist, how do you keep your sanity as a space?
So, firstly, I think to be in the arts, you require to let go of the notion of sanity.
Okay, great.
The way we know it. But no, seriously, I think it's, once you decide why you're here, I think the journey is tough. I won't say it isn't. But I think there's clarity that you do this and you don't do that. And I think because then if I can't do what we want to do, then it's not worth doing this, because then you just become a venue. You become a space, literally just the space.
That's very interesting that you said that, because you just become a venue.
Yeah.
What is the difference
So what I
between
mean
a
is,
venue
yeah, a
and
venue.
G5A?
So a venue and venue is literally the physical building or space that houses the performer or performance.
Correct.
Right. I think that I've always hoped that G5A would be more a lab and a space where ideas and works in progress are celebrated rather than just finished productions. So the reason I designed it as a black box is also that, because for me, the black box is also, I guess, a metaphor, like, for like the white page that when you before you begin writing, because the black cube, in a way, really, it is the opposite in some sense of the white cube, which is where art and sculpture are presented. I think the black box has a certain richness of and just potential of really thinking well out of the box.
Out of it, outside of it, all that box, and then you think outside of it. Thank you.
So I think to think of it, to think of it like that, I think it that's what gives it life. That's what then becomes the DNA. And so I think it's not therefore just the venue.
Yeah.
So earlier we were very sensitive when people would refer to us as a venue, and then finally it was like, okay, it is a venue, let's face it, but it's also much, much more.
I love it, because it's venue, G5A, and you're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, that's great. I want to ask.
Venues like rental equipment.
Yes.
Absolutely. Krishna, TM, let me, because some people call you either, and
That's
you've
fine.
never said no. So,
No, yeah.
So TM, I want to ask you, it's so amazing how I'm personally not somebody who engages in your music. Okay, and I'll be honest, because I can't lie. But yet I engage with you as an artist. And that's because you've constantly reached out beyond just the music audience. And I think that you do that with so much precision. You've written, and you do it so prolifically. You take time to write books that have reached me, and I read.
I'm glad, thank you.
And that's really great, because I get to hear your thought. And again, without having attended a concert perhaps, or without having bought today you don't buy cassettes, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know.
The equivalent of engaging with just the music of you. And I want to ask you that, is that something that you started off wanting to do? Or कहते हैं ना हिंदी में कि I started doing it, or कारवां बन गया. You just became a कारवां onto yourself.
I think karma is probably the right word for it.
It's a lovely
idea. It's a lovely idea. I've always liked it. Yeah, I mean, many times there are moments when you're alone and you're like, how did I get here? Yeah, and when I look at my calendar sometimes, I feel that way. Because my calendar is probably the craziest calendar. If I look at 5 days, 5 things I'm doing, there'd be 5 things that are normally completely unrelated to each other. And I look at my calendar and said, okay, I have to wear this hat on this day, this hat on this day, this hat on that day, and this.
And
And the,
sometimes literally.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. Sometimes literally.
What is his hat?
You
So
haven't seen his hat look?
What the hell?
I have a collection of hats, but that's right. So yeah, so I would have never imagined myself where I am today. I think I started off to be just a Carnatic singer and do well, and then for whatever reasons, questions started emerging, and then I just started digging deeper and deeper and deeper and trying to understand things, which I still try. And that led to writing, that led to what is called activism, and that led to asking larger questions beyond music, but understanding culture, understanding cultures in plural, aesthetics, and how does that work in our emotive landscape, and how much that actually programs the way we respond, we react, we ignore, we don't allow, we allow. Because, beyond what is today uh, superficially said to be politics, which is, I think, not politics. It's just people winning seats and winning
Power, I
power.
guess.
Power.
Yeah.
I think the politics that I'm very interested in and I'm involved in is the politics of our everyday behavior.
Yeah.
Of what we do from the moment we get up. Let's even start before. Where do we get up? What do I do from that moment to that moment when I go back to sleep? That's the politics that I'm interested in. And that's cultural politics. That's about things you will see, things you don't see, things somebody had to point out to you, the streets that you will walk, the streets you will not walk, all these little things that happen on an everyday basis. How can each one of us be acutely aware of those things? That's all. It's actually a very simple question that way. Can I spend a day being completely aware of how I feel? Even if there are thoughts that, for example, go against my intellectual grain, hypothetically, because we all do that. Intellectually and politically, we may say, this is right, that's wrong. But just dig deep, you don't feel that way every day.
Yeah.
You have exactly the opposite feeling, the feeling that you reject in you. How are you going to have a conversation between these two yous?
Yes, absolutely.
That's where art comes in. Art is your conversation.
Yeah.
Theater is your conversation. A painting is your conversation. So that's the politics that,
Excites you.
yeah, and I think that's what changes the world.
Yeah.
That's and when it changes the world, I'm not talking about magic or something. I'm just talking about things that can happen over 2 decades. We all may be
Yeah.
dead and gone, but who cares? But if this can be a way of being actively political, then that's what I am. That's exactly what I am.
Yeah.
And that could be through the word, that could be through a song, that could be through a conversation, that could be through curating, through listening, could be so many things. Why stop any one of them? Then I just keep trying and I keep doing and I keep failing and I'll keep getting up and keep trying again.
Yeah, because that is also space, right? You're like destroying the spaces that you're supposed to be in. Because if I'm assuming someone comes and says, "Hi, I'm a fan, can I have a selfie?" You're going to be like, "Which fan?"
I have this but I have a very interesting thing that happens always nowadays. Very interesting. Some people come and say, can I just have a selfie? I mean, some people make it a point to say one thing to me. They'll come and say, I'm a fan, and they'll pause and say, of your music. So I've been tempted many times to say, did I ask you? But I don't, out of courtesy, and I keep quiet. I'm like, but they feel somehow very powerful when they say that, actually. They feel extremely powerful. They feel somewhere they've made a point to me. I'm like, if that makes you feel better, I'm happy for you. And of course, I mean, the other thing also happens. A lot of people who've never heard my music, who would come and say, I don't know anything about your music, but I read everything you write. Now that's a different tonality, right? That's not like saying I hate your music, but I love you. No, nobody says that. But you have this set of people. I've seen that. It happened to me yesterday. Somebody came straight to me and, sir, I'm such a big fan of yours, of your music. I'm like, good for you.
Wow. Wow.
So you do deal with it.
I wonder how that is because, with people like Woody Allen, okay, I've been torn, where it's always a question about the art and the artist. And I wonder what it is like for fans of yours, because they're constantly negotiating this art and the artist.
I actually think they're inseparable.
Yeah,
I don't think you
absolutely.
should be. The problems that happen the moment you say you can do that are huge ethical problems that you cannot resolve. I think this is how I look at it. And I'm being careful here because I'm also coming from privilege of being able to look at it that way.
Sure.
So say, for example, I'm a survivor of an abusive artist, then this cannot be a reaction, right? So I should be very careful what I say here. But this is how I say it. If I think that I should take the artist and the art together, whatever it is, whether you agree with it or not, because it's in that real mess that happens through which the art is coming out, and you have to accept both coming together. And in a way, maybe then you'll engage in a more serious manner with not just that artist, but with all the issues that go around it. So I find it hard to separate the two.
Yeah.
And I would encourage people who come and tell me this to say, no, get messy with it. No, don't like my music, please. I want you to mess your head up with my politics and my music. If that stops you from coming to my concerts, that's fine. But don't silo me.
Yeah.
Because there's a problem there.
I'm so glad you said that, because that's something that I've, always believed. And I've come across many artists who are able to separate,
Yeah.
and they say it's not important.
Yeah.
And I cannot understand how that can be separated, because finally it is you.
Exactly.
That is the
So true.
that is transmitting,
100%.
and you are that music as well, or that art form. So I think, but Rohini, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think these are the conversations that need to happen. And I think people sometimes, TM, I think people are just so naive that they, I want to be polite, so I would
Naive
use,
was not
oh,
the word I was
beautiful
thinking
word,
of. I was like,
guys.
okay,
naive?
well,
Seriously?
stupid, because I think people don't think enough. Seriously, people just don't think enough today. And I think the thing is, if you are, in fact, I'll tell you, at G5A we find over the years the idea of focus and concentration is something that is quite stunning, as in people are just not able to sit still and focus. So where is the potential of thinking
Yeah,
about
that's true.
anything that's slightly uncomfortable? So at G5A we've always said that even if there are 5 people in the audience, it's okay, because the point is those 5 people will at least carry that difference within them, and then that transmits, or there's a ripple effect, hopefully. But we can't compromise what we present here.
100%.
So we've had and it's also not great for the team's morale. You work so hard putting all of this together, and then you have some 20 people sitting in the audience, and then at the last minute you're removing seats so it doesn't look so bad. And the artist doesn't feel so bad. So I think that we just have to keep talking, and I'm really happy that you've brought this conversation to your viewers and listeners, because I think that's what's so important, that we somehow manage to just talk more about these things, because it's only when you talk in a safe space, and that's what G5A strives to be, a safe space where artists and conversations can be really unfettered.
Recently, and I talk about the reason why this lends itself to so much more is because art is not just inside this space. I think our movies, for example, I've seen this really crazy trend where if you critique a film, okay, that is about anything to do remotely with nationalism, then you are not a good person. You will be trolled. But there is a lovely, differentiation in my mind, at least, between criticism and trolling. But then there is trolling. And I'm just watching this train wreck. I'm just watching people go at critics. And as somebody who is a critic and an artist himself, because you're one of those unique artists who has this advantage of also standing outside of it and also critiquing the same art form that you're a participant in. So I don't know how that works when it comes to conflict of interest. Definitely, definitely not nice. I'm sure a lot
Can't
of
take me to court for it, but I'm glad.
well, there are lots of artists who'll be like, hey, why are you throwing us under the bus? So how have you looked at criticism versus trolling?
Listen, well, of course, now that's been blurred so much.
Yeah.
What is criticism? What is trolling? I think when something fundamentally gets personal, there's nothing critical about it.
Yeah.
Because
That's
the
a good.
notion, yeah, it's very simple actually.
Yeah.
It's very simple. So you can be critical of an idea.
Mm.
Say I say something or write something. You can disagree with that vehemently. And I've had that. I remember I wrote a piece and it was about caste, and there was a response from a young scholar at a university. He was critical of my position, but there was nothing personal about it. It was a very strong rebuttal. It was like, no way this is acceptable. These are the reasons. But it was worth engaging with it, because it had a certain point of view, and it came from certain space, and I was interested in it. There was nothing about dissing the individual or being personal at a level you just cannot be. I think trolling is all that. Trolling is just that.
Just that.
Whatever sophistry of language you may use. Other thing, it's not about crude or sophisticated language. It's about what are you addressing. And I think that, I honestly sometimes get up in the morning and look at Twitter, and it's depressing, to be very honest. It's
Oh.
depressing. Not that I'm the target, when anybody else is the target. I'm like, what have we come to? Seriously, what have we really come to? And today, people troll in the name of criticism, right? And how does one separate the wheat from the chaff? I don't know. I don't know. I wonder whether it got to a point where we cannot kind of wind back to that kind of a ethical position of what criticism is. It's not easy to deal with. It's very personal, and I'm somebody who gets trolled, so I know what it means to get trolled, right? And it just goes on and on and on and on and on. It's like one of these non-stop nonsense movies or something. I don't even know. I don't even know. I don't know what does one do with it. Like, many years ago, a friend of mine said, people will mature. No,
No.
no.
Yeah.
What planet are you living in? No way. I almost feel that at some level, people are expressing frustrations, which are about so many other things, maybe, and they find a target and they just let loose.
And it's
And
always art.
yes, and artists are the easiest targets, right? So just give it to them and say what you want. I think it's really disappointing that critics, whether you agree with them or not, have to like be careful about being critical. This nationalism and all these words. I don't even sometimes wonder, what do you even mean? What notions of nation do each of us have? Three of us will have a different idea of nation, nationhood, and all these words. And at some level, let's also accept the fact that right through our own each schooling, these words have been also put into us with certain ideas. And then and the point is that you've built this entire idea, right? And then somebody wants to pluck it and make it more violent in some manner. But what is this idea? What does it mean to belong? I don't know. The truthful answer is none of us know, right? So, whenever I travel, I climb mountains. I love to climb mountains. That's what I do. And sometimes I'm in this remote village somewhere, and I'm listening to two people have a conversation in their kitchen. And I have no clue what they're talking about. We're supposed to be part of the same geography. What is this nationhood? What is it that actually binds X with me? Actually, it's nothing. Zero. So, so we are actually arguing about a construct which is imaginary, which has been given temporal basis by drawing lines and creating structures, right? If you think of it that way, if somebody from Mars came and looked at this and said, "You guys are a bunch of loonies,"
Yeah.
just think of it that way, right? So, if I just say, "Fine, we have this construction, but if we're all just people," then maybe we should just function like that. Easier said than done. But I think we're all desperate to find identities with something, whether it's caste, whether it's gender, whether it is, sexual preference, whether it is nationhood, whether it is language. So fundamentally, I think there's a lacking about who we are.
course.
right?
Of course.
So
You are in relation to
so
something.
you have to. So you have some validity, right?
Yeah.
And right now we have this jingoistic national validity that everybody is seeking, with no clue what it really means. It seems to me now the validity is given to you based on how violently you react to certain things.
Mm.
The more violently you react to certain things, you're definitely nationalistic.
The more patriotic you are.
That's all. Beyond which, I think nobody like you said has time to think, nuance, forget about it.
Yeah.
Forget that. You want to fix something in this place, you are not going to be around. You want to fix the road, you want to fix the pipe.
Exactly true. Talk about that.
Nobody's
No,
coming to help you there. But if you talk to me about it, and that's why I feel like it's so loaded, right? Like, because art is mostly talk, it's sound, or it's action, which is, suspended in like a space. And that will affect them more than anything that is real, which is actually what you use. So let's come back to voice and responsibility and ask you. I don't need to ask you this. I'm assuming the answer is, if you have a voice, there will be responsibility. Yes, right?
it's a given.
It's a
Yeah.
given.
It's a given, especially if you have a voice that has privilege,
Yeah.
even more. I think there are different responsibilities depending
Yeah.
on the location of the voice. And I think as a voice with privilege, of course, have a responsibility. There's no doubt about it. And whether it's I'm singing a tune or I'm speaking a word or just say watching a performance this weekend, I still have a responsibility, and that's the only way you can live a life as an artist.
If I had to ask you to, rank yourself
Shoot,
as an artist right now in your own journey, where would you say you are at?
you're slang like 1 to 10 kind of a rank. You're not kidding me. Come
Of course,
on,
I'm not.
come
Where
on.
do you think you're at? I'd love to know because what fascinates me is there are two ways to look at how we are all doing our art, which is that A, we think too much of ourselves, or we think too little.
I have to say 5 right now.
No, how do you negotiate that for yourself?
You're talking about the whole
Do
package
you
of
think
me,
you
right?
know, or do you think you
This is
don't?
the whole package of me, or just the singer?
Just the singer thing.
Oh, just the singer. I'm pretty good.
I was trying to bail you out by saying something, but maybe I won't.
You should so.
Maybe you can.
No, I'll tell you an interesting thing. I think we've known each other possibly around 6 years.
Yeah.
And TM's performed here quite often. And we've also, he made it a little difficult, but he finally did agree to be on our advisory council. So we do chat about some of these sort of elemental things. We also, had him as guest curator for our 2 festivals. And I remember, I don't know if I said it to you, but I think at one point I felt it. I can't now remember because we do exchange interesting banter. But so I felt at one point, I remember saying that you ought to be safe, be wise.
Yes.
Be wise in what you do, because there was one point where things were a little, I think,
One of the cycles.
yeah.
Yes.
And then I also remember thinking that, I hope this doesn't take TM the stress and just the intellectual energy of doing so many
because
things.
this activism can drain you or energize you.
Yes.
So,
And so I remember feeling, as I said, I can't remember if I mentioned it, but I remember thinking that I hope it doesn't take away from his music. And I have to say that I'm quite stunned that I actually feel it's really enriched. Whatever it is, it's working. Because I remember, you won't remember my telling you because you have so many fans. But I remember
I
in
was waiting for that little line. When is that line going to come? It's like long overdue.
No, but in Kapila's festival, when you were invited to sing, at her theater.
At a theater, yes.
So I remember she'd invited me, Kapila, who's a wonderful, wonderful artist. So she built this theater space. And so we were there, and I remember thinking after that performance, I think that was the first performance after I'd felt this. And it was incredible. And I'm saying this just as somebody who has always enjoyed Indian classical, whether it is Hindustani or Carnatic, and vocal even more. I was really at that point quite moved, and I remember telling him that. And then again, at very recently in Bombay, it was, all I can say, and I think I said this also to you, was that it was sublime. And that's not a word I use lightly. I think what was amazing and moving for all of us was that he actually, I think, wasn't aware of
I love how you
the
use
audience.
sublime for TM, who's always saying that when I say Krishna, I mean the sound. Uh, I love that. It's so lovely, right? It's amazing that you use that word.
But it truly was, because I think that was, what I've always been amazed at are those moments. It's like the sweet spot in tennis. When you hit when the ball catches that right spot. I think that when you can detach from your physical and, well, the physical environment, I think, and you're really one with your art, that's something that is rare, it's difficult, and it's extremely special. And I think you did manage to get there. I'm hoping he will get there this weekend as well. But because it's just amazing to experience. So not from any other point of view, but yeah.
Thank you, both of
Thank
you,
you.
for giving me your time today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Hi, this is T.M Krishna, and I'm on Fever.
Hi, I'm Anuradha Parikh, and I'm on Fever.